for watching Gearz.
You know, one thing we try to do on Gearz is showcase all kinds of projects on all kinds of different vehicles, from hardcore fabrication to simple bolt-on stuff. So hopefully you'll be inspired to get out there and tackle a project of your own, no matter what you're into. And one of the best project vehicles to pick up is a truck, because there's so much that you can do to them, and they really are a great dual-purpose vehicle. You can drive it every day to work, still go out and play with it on the weekend. And we get all kinds of emails from you guys asking what our recommendations are for modifications to a daily driver to make it an even better dual-purpose rig. To answer that question, we hooked up with our buddies at NAPA Auto Parts and decided to build a vehicle called the Perfect Additions truck. Now, the criteria for this is pretty simple. Number one, it has to remain a true dual-purpose vehicle. Nothing like this that gets too big or radical that you can't drive every day, or gets bad gas mileage, or crushes everything in the vicinity when you try to turn it around. Number two, all the parts need to be affordable and easily accessible over the counter at any NAPA Auto Parts store. Number three, all the parts need to be something that an average person can install in their driveway or in their garage. And number four, all the parts not only need to look good, but they also need to increase the usability of the truck and the value of the truck. So, armed with that, we picked up a great example of what a lot of people are driving, a used truck. Now, this is a 2008 Ford F-250 4x4, and we're going to dig into it and show you what can be done if you invest a little bit of time and money. Okay, the first thing that we're going to look at is the bed. Now, obviously, if you've got a truck, you plan on using the bed. And if you use the bed, it's going to get beat up just like this. So putting in some sort of a bed liner is a smart thing to do. The one that meets our criteria the best is this stuff called Herculiner. Now, this is a rubberized roll-on bed liner that not only provides a coat of protection to the metal of the bed, it also gives you a traction surface. So boxes aren't going to slide around in your bed like they do on bare metal. Now, putting this stuff on is really simple, but it will take you some time. So downing a few energy drinks can definitely help speed things up. First, clean the bed. Then scuff the bed with the supplied pad to rough up the surface and give the Herculiner something to stick to. Next, tape off any areas where you don't want the coating. Then apply the Herculiner with the supplied roller. Once it's dry, you have a coated, protected bed that has the look and the feel of a spray-in liner, but at a fraction of the cost and the hassle. Another important thing to put on a truck is what we call a headache rack, like this one that was built by DZ. This is a metal frame with metal louvers here in the center, and a lot of people think something like this is just for looks or is some kind of a roll bar thing, and neither one is true. A headache rack is actually designed to bolt here behind the cab and protect the people inside from any boxes or cargo that might come loose, try to go through that back window when you hit the brakes. Thus the nickname headache rack. Something like that can actually save your life, so it's pretty important if you're carrying cargo. Of course, it comes with all the hardware to bolt it in, and it's got a powder-coated finish, so it's going to look good for a long time. Now, installing something like this is really simple. Almost as simple as just tossing it in place and walking away. Check it out. Hey, welcome back to Gearz and our Perfect Additions project, where we're showing you some of the cool stuff that can be done to a daily driver truck using parts that you can pick up at your local NAPA Auto Parts store. Now, so far we've rolled on a bed liner and put on a headache rack. Now we're going to talk about some lights. You know, any truck can benefit from auxiliary lighting, and a lot has changed since the days of bolting on a big old pair of off-road lights. Now you can get something like this light bar from Echo. Now this, of course, has the emergency patterns like you would expect, but also here on the sides, you have what is called alley lights. Now those throw light out to the perimeter so you can see what's going on around you. Right here in the center, you've also got work lights that throw light forward. So this isn't just for emergency vehicles anymore. Now on our project, this is a good start, but since this is a work truck, we need more lighting than that. So we also picked up some extra floodlights, spotlights, relays, switches, wiring harnesses, everything we're going to need to light this truck up like a Christmas tree. We'll start by setting the light bar in place on the headache rack. Now the rack has a groove running the length of it, so centering up the bar is a snap. Once that's decided, we'll drill and tap the mounting holes. Then bolt the lights on using some Loctite to make sure they don't eventually work their way loose. Next, we'll lay out the smaller lights on the rack. Now you want to space them out as evenly as possible for a nice clean look. Now, the cool thing about using this style of light is it's got a pivoting bracket so you can point that light wherever you're going to need it, which is great if you need to throw light out to the side of the rig. Now notice we have the floodlights on the sides and in the center, so we get a nice flood of light back here into the work area. But in those upper corners, that's where we put the spotlights. So we get a strong beam of light down the trail in front and also in the rear. Okay, before we can start running our wires, we need to lay out where our switches are going to go so we know where to run the wires to. Now, if you'll notice on this Ford, we've got 4 auxiliary switches here that aren't being used. So that's a good start, but we're going to need more than that. So we picked up a bunch of these heavy-duty lighted rocker switches. That's going to take care of the rest of our accessories. Now, where you mount these is entirely up to you. We do recommend you make them as clean and factory looking as possible. So you got some spots down here on the dash, you got them under the steering wheel, you got them over on the door panel. You can even put them in the console so you can have everything clean, hidden out of the way, just like James Bond.
Smoke screen, oil slick, rear bulletproof screen, and left and right front wing machine guns.
Now, once you have your switches laid out, you can start running your wiring.
And now, Wiring Tech, brought to you by Painless Performance Products. American made, American proud.
When it comes time to wire a project, most people spend a lot of time cutting and soldering and crimping their ends because those fittings are really important. But what they don't do is spend a lot of time deciding how they're going to run their wires. So once those connections are made, they usually just stuff all this into a corner somewhere. And that's asking for trouble down the road. Trouble that you can avoid if you use some wiring loom to help protect and route your wiring. The split loom will allow you to take a big messy bunch of wiring and clean it up into a single strand that you can mount in place with a clamp. If you ever need to service the wire, it's as simple as just pulling it back out. Now, while you're at it, don't forget to use rubber grommets when you're running wiring through a hole, and having a package of cable ties on hand is a great way to make sure the wiring stays up and out of the way when you don't have room to use one of these clamps. Now, I know this seems like little stuff, and it is, but they make all the difference in the world when you're trying to do a professional level wiring job on a working man's budget. Hey, we're back, and in the process of showing you how to set up a truck with some of the best upgrades out there to make it more usable and more fun all at the same time. Now, so far, our focus has been on the bed, headache rack, and lights, and I know a lot of you guys are thinking, you know, you haven't done much with this area. We're about to take care of that. Come on. Now, putting a toolbox in the bed of a truck, that's nothing new. But the types of boxes that you can get has changed a lot over the years. And NAPA has a whole line of Perfect Editions boxes and equipment that you can fill your bed with. For example, a lot of people like to use a truck to haul extra diesel fuel or water or chemicals to a remote location. And that is exactly what this is for. This is called a transfer tank. It's made out of diamond plate aluminum, and it's designed to bolt right into the bed of your truck. Now, to get the fluid out of that tank, we're going to use this electric pump by Fill-Rite, which also comes with an extension tube, and the wiring, and the hose, and the nozzle. So, first we're going to get the tank in the truck, then we're going to put the pump on the tank. How you doing over there? All right, good? Got it? How you looking over there? Okay, with the tank in place, we're ready for some toolboxes. And 3 areas to look for on a toolbox are construction, hinges, and latches. Now, these particular boxes are built to a contractor level using diamond plate aluminum, so they're strong, but they're still lightweight. The hinge on the top is a heavy-duty piano hinge that runs the full length of the top, so you got a lot of strength there. And then you've got lockable push buttons and rotary latches. So something like this is going to last you a long time and put up with a ton of abuse. The best part is this box is designed to mount right over the sides of the bed, so you literally drop it in place and clamp it on with these clamps. You don't believe me? Check this out. Just drops in place. Now, you got to admit, that is cool. The toolbox sitting over the top of the transfer tank is a really slick setup. And this is where most people will stop, and that's fine. But one of the most notoriously dead areas on a truck is right here, because that wheel well takes up about 6 inches where you can't push anything against the side of the truck. So we're going to put this area to good use by putting some toolboxes here too. Now, this particular box is designed to mount right to the side of the bed and give you full access from the side of the truck, just like the front box. Now, you can clamp these on, but for extra strength, we're going to bolt them on. All right, now we're starting to get a pretty full truck, but we're not done yet because we still have a lot of room out there in the center to carry more stuff. So we're going to put on 2 things that everybody wishes that they could have portable in a truck: a generator and an air compressor. And fortunately, there is a way to combine these 2 things into a fairly compact unit. Take a look. The Mighty M Corporation is best known for pressure washers and accessories at NAPA. But they were able to fill our need for a generator compressor for this project. Now, obviously, our options were pretty limited with the amount of space we're dealing with, but the guys at NAPA put together the perfect combination to supply up to 100 psi of air and up to 220 volts of power, and still keep it compact enough to fit in the bed packed with all those toolboxes. All right, Tommy, come on. Now, obviously, a unit like this is not light, so if you don't have a bunch of big burly friends to help you load it, you're going to need some sort of forklift to help you get it in the truck. All right, right about there. Looks good. Now, at this point, we don't have a whole lot of cargo space left, but that's all right. Hopefully this shows you that there's a lot of ways to utilize the bed of a truck to help you get a job done.
And now, Parts Bin, brought to you by Heartthrob Exhaust, where technology and craftsmanship come together.
There's no doubt that a lot of people would like to have a vehicle that they could run road courses or autocrosses with because it's just a lot of fun. Now, that means you need to build a vehicle that's low to the ground and will handle the G-forces of hard cornering. And that means that your stock oil pan probably isn't going to cut it. Fortunately, Mylodon solved this problem when they came out with these road racing oil pans for most popular V8s. Check this out. First of all, it's extremely low profile, so having a low car is not going to be a problem. But it still has a 7-quart capacity thanks to these ears on the sides. Now inside is where the magic happens. Check this out. To keep the pickup tube immersed in oil, Mylodon came out with a special 5-trap door system that keeps this center cube full of oil no matter what kind of cornering or acceleration that you're doing. Now, of course, the oil comes out here into a external line, it goes into a billet pump cover, and on the Hemi keeps the filter right in the stock location. Now, you add to that a windage tray and some gaskets, and you've got the sort of oil pan that Mylodon has been famous for building for years. If you're a road racer and you don't want to kill your engine by starving it of oil, you need to check out these pans. If you're working on a Ford or a Chevy muscle car, well, you know you got a lot of options when it comes to aftermarket parts. But if you're working on a Mopar, you don't have that many options, especially if you're talking about a rear end. Well, the guys at Magnum Force decided to do something about that, and they came out with what they call their ProLink rear suspension. Now, this is basically a 4-link suspension, similar to what you see on a race car, except this is designed to attach to your stock frame rails using these special brackets so you don't have to cut everything away and back half the car. But this is almost as strong as if you would have done that. Check this out. It comes with these huge 1.25-inch link bars with 3/4-inch rod ends. We have a track bar, got adjustable coilovers, you got all the brackets you're going to need to weld to the rear end housing, and the hardware to bolt it together. So you've got an adjustable 4-link, and you're still able to put stuff in your trunk. If you want to drive your car hard on the drag strip, flog it on a road course, or just have a better handling street car, the ProLink suspension from Magnum Force is one of the best ways to plant a Mopar rear end to the ground.
Now, quick tip, brought to you by E3 Spark Plugs, born to burn.
You know, one of the most important aspects to adding aftermarket parts to a vehicle is making a match. This is the one thing that will make aftermarket parts either look like an add-on or an original part. And the OEMs aren't too good at this either. For example, got a blue truck here with tan trim, and you also have black trim here, but then right in the middle of it, you have an emblem with red right in the center. Nothing matches that. Now, fortunately, there's a simple solution to that. Take some spray paint, paint that insert black, along with any other trim or flares that you might put on, and everything will match and make sense. And usually all this takes you is a little bit of time and some spray paint in the color that you're going to use. Sometimes it's those little things that makes all the difference in the world. If you want to learn more tips to make your life easier in the shop, check out the tips page on the website.
And now, what are you working on? Brought to you by Carrera, Motorsports at Home.
Today's What Are You Working On comes from Keith Kuhn from Waldron, Indiana, and his project is a 1938 Chevy 2-door sedan. But Keith didn't buy this sedan. No, this was given to him by his dad. But his dad didn't give him some old original car. Now, his dad was a hot rodder back in the day. So let's start out with a picture of when Dad had the car. Now, after he retired, that's when his dad gave the car to Keith. And Keith says that over the last 4 years, it has become what he used to imagine that it could be, which isn't necessarily the way his dad intended it to be. Check it out. The engine is a 350 Chevy that Keith built himself with an old school tunnel ram for attitude. The headers are hand-built using old T-bucket pipes and some tricks that he got from watching the Sergeant Rock project. And that is exactly what these projects are for. Now, the paint and body work was handled by a fellow club member, Greg Harley, and with all the body mods and black paint, the body has gone through a pretty amazing transformation. Now, Keith also built some aluminum seats, and his wife made the inserts, making this a true family project. And Keith, I know there's a lot of guys out there that think you're pretty lucky that your wife is helping you on a project. And as you can see by this final picture, that car came out pretty amazing. So Keith, to recognize a really cool project, we hooked up with our buddies at Carrera. We're going to give you one of these Evolution race car sets so you can challenge your wife or your friends anytime you want. We're also going to give you one of our new Gearz t-shirts, as well as one of our electrical wiring books, so you can figure out the wiring on any project you might be taking on. Now, the rest of you guys, if you want to get involved with this, want to get your car on the show, you got to go to staceydavid.com, go to Gearz Nation, and fill out a free profile, because we pull all of the project vehicles, all of the feature vehicles right off of that. Also, don't forget to check us out on Twitter, Facebook, all that social media, because we've got all kinds of cool stuff going on that you'll never see on the show. All right, that takes care of it for us today. That means it's time for you to get out there and start working on something. We'll see you next time.